Arden did not suspect anything of that, and actually it was 4 or 5 times that his murderers tried to get hold of him. Well, you see, I think that it's quite easy for a German audience to feel strongly about ghastly things happening and the various attitudes, guilty attitudes, half-guilty attitudes and innocence which people take towards these things, because they have had things like that happening in their own times, and all shades of behavior are still very much represented and resented amongst them.
And I suppose you both feel that an opera must in any way be in some way committed to an attitude of your own.
Well, I think in writing for the drama or the opera, writing music for that purpose, you do fall into the position of merely being a decorator unless you can associate yourself with specific attitudes which mean something to you from some point of view. I don't mean this in any particular literal attitude, but I personally am unmoved by the idea of merely writing music for sort of general a story or a situation or something like that, that if you have a specific situation, a specific problem, like the murder and the various attitudes of the people to it, that one gets a greater inspiration if one can. I mean, it may just be a trick, but well, if one can associate it with something that one thinks matters to oneself, it somehow makes the invention of the music more actual.
As Alexander Goehr was born in Berlin, and the Hamburg Opera commissioned Arden Must Die from him in German, I asked the General Intendant, Rolf Liebermann, whether he really did look upon Goehr as an English composer.
Yes, no doubt he is an English composer.
But you think that that in commissioning him you were aware that the style of composition was something that would fit in with your own notion of what is new opera?
Yes, of course. I know Sandy, I don't know how many years. I knew him already when he was a boy of 13. And I watched his development. I think he is one of the great talents in England. And as we commission absolutely internationally and without any nationalistic point of view, I thought I should ask him to do something because I believe in him, that's all.
Yes, yes.
I only believed in him as a composer, and I thought he should try out his capacity as an opera composer.
To what extent was he completely free in this choice of this story, or did you
He was absolutely free.
The production by Egon Monk from German television is highly stylized, and the first act's played out as broad farce. This scene, a foggy marshland. Little cardboard clouds wave around in front of the singers as Arden, with his friend Franklin, takes the ferry on the way to London. He's closely pursued by 2 comic ruffians hired by his wife Alice and her lover Mosby to murder him. In the fog, they lose him and one another. It's not until the second half that one begins to feel there is a message below the surface. I asked Ron Dowd, the Australian tenor who plays the part of Mosby, how aware he was of it.
Well, there is an enormous sort of double and treble meaning all the time. I mean, even reading the English libretto in this piece is an exciting thing because it has great black humour in it. And it's very unusual to find an opera in 2 languages, which is very apt in both of them.
What do you think the German audience is going to make of these?
Well, this I can't say because I'm not familiar with German audiences, but I certainly think that Goehr has made it quite plain what he thinks under certain circumstances, and he has put it into this piece. And I think perhaps that it's at least going to be surprising for them.
Yeah.
I think in this particular character, Mosby, who has had an association with Arden's wife, Alice, prior to Arden having been married to her, really is the man who pushes this plot along. Alice is the lady of high repute. She wants to renew the association because he's frankly apparently good in bed. But I think Mosby is not exactly a good-natured villain, but he has this smoothness.
An important character in the opera is Mrs. Bradshaw, who is half involved, half onlooker. She was not in the original play, and Erich Fried must have invented her for a specific reason. Ursula Böser, born in Hamburg, had no doubt about the implications of her role.
I hope they will get the meaning behind for the past and future and the present.
Yes. And you think it's clear in the opera?
Yes. Of course. For my part, I could have done something because in the first moment they told me about the murder, and I thought that I dislike this, and I told them, and then they told me, if you don't shut up, we will murder you too. And I could have said, well, I will shut up, and then I could have run to the police, but I didn't. And I waited until they murdered him, and then I felt my bad feeling, and then I ran to the police after all things happened.
Too late.
Too late.
At Arden's dinner table, Mrs. Bradshaw sits apart, knowing that Arden is flanked by those who are plotting his murder, Mosby and Alice. Giving nothing away, she joins in the toast. Arden, may your luck hold true. We pledge a better life for you. To that we raise our glasses too. Kirsten Meyer, another regular singer at Hamburg, plays Alice.
I guess it's sort of Brechten style, you know, that you give your message directly to the audience, so to say, and that you act a part which is more stylized idea of a certain type of person living in a certain time, but also, which is quite, I mean, does also exist in our times, but was at its utmost at that very time.
This is an important element in Brecht's attitude to the theatre, isn't it? That
it
should
must
bring some sort of meaning that is alive today. Do you find that particularly in this?
Yes.
What is the other level, do you think?
Oh, I mean, there's definitely a political meaning in it.
I consider myself, as far as a musician can consider himself as such, dealing in a very abstract language, as a political being. And it would be natural in my choice of this play, and in the various considerations which led to this choice, to evaluate this from the point of view of now. I mean, I'm not interested in the restoration of Elizabethan comedy. I mean, this matters nothing to me. Why should it? I would like to point out, however, that neither Erich Fried or I, whether intentionally or unintentionally, consider ourselves to be racialists. And this opera is not in any way intended to be either an insult or an attack, or either political or social, at anything to do with Germany. Certain implicit German political situations are used whenever the word England occurs, substitute Germany, in fact. That is because Erich Fried is very preoccupied with German politics. But we are dealing, the kind of problems of responsibility we're dealing with are problems that could apply to us and to apply to the United States or the Soviet Union or China or anywhere else. They're problems of human relationships. And I would hate to have it thought that, you know, here was I sort of giving a kick at the German nation, because why should I? I mean, what's it to do with me? We're not intended to convince anybody of anything. We want to show them something. We want to show them how we have considered or we have drawn certain characters reacting to certain situations. They can go and think out what it means for themselves. We're not their teachers.
Except that you have, or Erich Fried has put in an epilogue which is very specific. This seems to be outside the general mood of the work.
Yes, well, I find the epilogue a great problem. I haven't made up my mind about it. Some further thought on that subject.
If the epilogue was a problem for Alexander Goehr, his music was a more immediate one for the orchestra. Since the first night, the score has been highly praised, but to say the orchestra found it difficult is putting it politely.
That's very true. You see, the chief problems actually in it are the rhythmical ones, because a lot of modern music, as you know, is written so that new groups come in different rhythms, suddenly interrupting a rhythm which has already been established. And composers like Penderecki and so on, they just simply indicate when a group of instruments come in and more or less leave the instruments to it. Now, this kind of thing is very good if you rehearse several times just before a concert and then do one concert or one recording. But when you're dealing with an opera which is going to go on being performed over years possibly, and with probably no rehearsal after the premiere, then you've got to find some way of writing it down so that it can be played and understood by a normal musician. It's terribly rhythmically complicated, this opera, but it has to be exactly notated and not left to chance the way so much modern music is. And although some of Sandy Goehr's music sounds possibly like chance music, it's not really so because it's all correctly written down. And this makes the most extraordinary difficulties with the rhythm, and the musicians have had a tremendous amount of difficulty with it. The singers have less difficulty with it because after they've learnt the exact rhythms, how they fit with the words, they then sort of sing so that it sounds free, but is in fact exactly what the composer wrote.
Yes. The vocal line is difficult. I think Sandy Goehr has made a difficult piece of music, but I find it extremely interesting, and I think the music is apt for the character. Yes, I do, but it's not easy at all.
It was very difficult for me to study this part, but now I enjoy it very much, because it's written for an alto, real alto.
The vocal lines for me are marvelous. They are very sensuous. I mean, this woman has to be basically, you know, driven by her passions.
Yes.
And this music comes up to this marvelously for me.
The murder scene itself offers a double parody, the setting of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper and the music of a Nazi song. On paths of red the roses blow as the essay advance on Moscow.
With one thing you can console yourselves as you go off home. You yourselves are not guilty of murder, or indeed of any other crime, neither miscreants nor accessories, nor people who would rather not know. And even if you were, you are not like Alice in her own four walls, but far, far further off.
I think the end was really interesting because it is not the only man who made this or who is the murder. It is the community.
Well, to be honest, I must say that I belong to those who don't want to see everything.
I just thought it was definitely aimed at German audiences. The fact that I'm not perfect in German and yet understood the humour of it to a large extent, I felt, makes me feel that as an English person unable to appreciate fully all the German nuances and so forth, that an English audience wouldn't find it at all difficult. Indeed, I would have thought very easy. It's a send-up, after all, of an old British raw tragedy.
Which has, in fact, very little dramatic significance at all. It really is just this series of attempts on the life of Arden, the last one of which succeeds. But Fried seems to me, particularly through the introduction of Mrs. Bradshaw, a character of his own invention, to have given it a very political angle. She is the representative, rather modern idea of the person who thinks that by saying, well, I was always against it, that they somehow exonerate themselves from the things they see going on around them. And then, of course, with the epilogue, a spoken thing, Fried has further pointed the political moral, very definitely.
At the beginning, I thought, right, this is about Germany, about complacency, about the past, the recent past. But now I've caught myself thinking that in fact that's the complacent. I'm as much involved in our present political situation, let's say in Vietnam, and I'm just as complacent as the people here, perhaps, about their recent past. So it's a very clever opera.